How are we to take that constitution? The alliance we have built is a sure way that all of us say, no, this our enterprise is no more. So if you do something that will ruin that alliance, infuriating all those who should have been working together, how will we take down that constitution? How will we end this bondage? How will we break that cage? That's where we are. And then you go to the international arena. What case are you presenting to them when you can't even answer the first question? Because they're going to ask you, where is the territory you want independence for? I've answered that question at the UN since 2012.
Timmy,
I've
I'm coming.
answered
I'm
the
going
other
to go
hard
get some
questions they bring.
over.
So that's for that third question. We have reached out to everybody. We have a plan that everybody can use to work. Let us take the task in two compartments. As an alliance, we take down that constitution. Then Yoruba organizations will work together to take back Yoruba sovereignty in that space. 60 million people, they're able to organize them. The eastern side, all of us, in a set of relationship, we're able to organize ourselves to be 70 million people. Middle belt is able to organize itself. Berom, Tiv, Idoma, all of them who have been at each other's throats over the years, they're able to organize themselves. But three of us, we have no quarrel. We hold human life sacrosanct, and we believe that all men are born equal in the alliance. Our people can continue to live where they live, like Germans and French and Spanish live in European Union, wherever they choose to live. But if you make it impossible for anybody else, if the world will come to say, oh, let's stop and give you Biafra, what will happen to Ijo? What will happen to Yoruba? What will happen to the other people? How does it become their campaign? What are you going to present in any meeting you are called? The international committee is not going to give us 300 countries because that's the number of languages that will spring up. There's work to be done to organize it in such a way that the international community can relate with it. We come back to number 2. You said, if we don't vote, others will vote. The election in 2023, we are not talking about boycott. Let us get that very clearly. We are not talking about boycott. Boycott does not work. If you do boycott, even if it's 10 people, you saw the minister the other day say that if Anambra people don't come out, the prisoners have a right to vote. They will use prisoners to conduct the election. That whatever be the outcome, under the current laws, under the constitution we have, that will work because there's no lower limit to the number that have to vote. No matter what you do, as long as some people are able to gather in that space on that day, an outcome will be declared. So we're not talking about boycott, which is to stay away from voting on the day of election. We're saying we must shut down the parties because there's no other thing political party is doing today. If we don't do it, if we don't summon the courage to shut down the political parties operated by our cousins, our nieces, our brothers and sisters, if we can't face them in our communities and tell them, look, you can't take us to the slaughter one more time. You are taking us to slaughter now. If we can't do that, then we just wait for the AK-47 to turn up in our space. It will be our doing. Let nobody tell us that others will go and vote. Why will others go and vote if we shut down the people organizing the election, the parties, the political parties? No other target. Political party. How many of them? If the fight is going to be because we are telling political parties to close shop in our neighborhood, let that fight start. Let them go and bring Fulani to come and defend them in Ikoga because they want to go to election. At the time, people are being killed and we've not sorted out the constitution. That's for that. It's not boycott we're talking about. It's shutdown that should happen way ahead of that election date. And we will then go into transition the time South Africa did to ease itself out of apartheid. Is it not the same thing we're dealing with here? In South Africa, it was the Boers. Here it is the Fulani. What's the difference between the apartheid they imposed in South Africa and the one that was imposed here? In which we have become slaves in our land, enabled by a constitution we didn't make. But we have become a majority. Our signature is the one sustaining it. We have a plan to pull back that signature. Anybody who is not partaking of that plan now and telling us of something else is going to do, we pray that when the blood flow comes, it will start from the households of those people who are arguing either blindly or dishonestly at this time. We are faced with a situation of life and death. Going to election is guaranteed for death. Stopping this election is guaranteed for success. Why can't we do it? Then we'll come back to the number one question of have we always has this always been our position? I can tell you without equivocation, yes. By the time we in 2000 and in 1999, nobody saw the constitution. They already swore in Obasanjo before they showed him the constitution. So there was nothing anybody could do for 2000 and for 1999. But by 2003, as they were going towards 2003, we were insisting that the government, Bola Ige, went and joined government, and you saw what happened with him. We were insisting that we should stop and repair this thing before it becomes a bigger problem. Nobody will listen. I wasted 5 years on Obasanjo. When I say I'm talking about from the time he became president. I was looking at somebody who had gone to prison, who had suffered from the system. Obasanjo was Nzogwo's roommate. Obasanjo was present every step of the way when these things were being turned into what they became. He was the one that took the instrument of surrender in 1970. He was the one that was used to impose the 1979 constitution. And since he became the one that was now going to bring back that same 79 in 1999, having been in the valley of the shadow of death, we thought we had found we thought we had somebody who could now listen and solve the problem. Wasted 5 years on him. It was when he turned coat. It was when he turned like a monster that it became necessary to go and get the owners of the land to go into a meeting over and above the government. The government is a management team. The owners of the enterprise are the nationalities. So went to Enohoro, went to Shoyinka. Shoyinka is still there. Let those who have access to him ask him whether this is not how it happened. We decided to take our sovereignty into our hands to now go into a meeting to work out the constitutional arrangements that will prevail. And if we can't find common ground with those who have imposed Sharia, because they imposed Sharia in year 2000, if we can't find common ground, then we'll dissolve the union. We end the union. And so, from that point, we announced in 2004 that we're going to have a meeting because we had consulted sufficiently from the time election came in 2003, at the time we were still hoping government would do it. They say, okay, right after the election, we're going to start. Election came, and now Obasanjo began to appoint technocrats that will build Nigeria on top of a rotten foundation. So we said, okay, government is not the owner of our sovereignty. Let the owners of the land go into a meeting. Let's see that. Obasanjo went on national television to announce that if we call that meeting, that we'll be committing treason. It became a fight. More people joined us. You were going to arrest Enohoro, arrest Ojukwu, arrest Shoyinka, arrest Sisi Ono, and all the people, Bankoloki, everybody. Nobody told him to dress back. But before he dressed back, he had, in December 2004, he wanted to get ahead of us. He then set up a committee headed by the governor of Kaduna of the time, McCarthy, to say, okay, this shout about, this demand about sovereign conference, okay, set up how we can do it. In 3 weeks, they submitted a report that became the conference of 2005. He wanted to suck out the conveners. He invited Enohoro and Shoyinka to come and join their conference so that he can behead our own process. Of course, we told our men to stay back. They went into that meeting because he was playing a prank. We told them where the plank will collapse, and it collapsed exactly as we told them. That it is not a meeting of Abuja friends. It is a meeting of the nationalities that will happen in 2 stages. Let those who will federate form their, go in the formations and create their own constitutions. Let them come in a second stage to federate those constitutions in that order, except we're no longer a federation. The conference collapsed in 2005, March 2005. That's Obasanjo's conference. Then we resumed our own plan that became Pronaco, that lasted all the way to August of 2006. Sitting in Lagos, sitting in Port Harcourt, sitting in Enugu, sitting in Jos, sitting in Kano, sitting back in Lagos to conclude with foreign observers and all the armed groups in house. And so, right after the Pronaco, back to your question of had this always been our position, we went to court in 2007 while Obasanjo was still president. We went to court to say this constitution can no longer be basis. We must now go into transition and work out what would replace that document. Because if we don't, people are going to go unilateral in search of self-determination. And so the Attorney General came on behalf of federal government. And what did he say in court? What did he file in court? He said he had nothing to say. Because we locked in the matter in a manner that doesn't give anybody room to maneuver. The 2 parts of the Constitution we talked about, that decree number 24 and the preamble and the 2 versions of the Constitution was what we put before the court. That the proof of what we're saying is in the document. And so they began one adjournment after the other. We then decided that 2000 and if not for the fact that Obasanjo was planning to stay back, we would have launched that attack earlier. But when we reviewed, say, this man who doesn't want to go home, you now come and give him on a platter of gold reason not to go home. Because if the constitution is distressed, he will say, well, I'm staying back to fix it. What are you going to do? So we had to wait until his bags were leaving the villa, going to Otafam, before we fired us, but he was still president in the terminal days of his presidency, to make sure that whoever came next will not even go beyond the first year. Yaradua reached out. Yaradua sent Tinubu to us at that time because he met that suit when they swore him in. Binta Nyako was the judge. Binta went to the Chief Justice of the Federation at the time to say, there's a problem. The country is going to collapse on our head if we don't find answers. The Chief Justice Uwais took Binta to Yaradua. Say, look, Oga, we have a problem. What do we do? Asari Dokubo and Wazirike were held at that period, standing trial for treason. By the time we assembled the plaintiffs, and I can name them again, Enohoro, Shoyinka, Ojukwu, Bankoloki, who used to be Attorney General, and he was the permanent secretary that carved out the Nigerian Air Force from the Nigerian Army. Bishop Bolanle Gonigi in Akure. I was the one who filed the suit. I called Keyamo. He was the counsel to leading the defense of Asari Dokubo and Wazirika for treason. I told him we were going to take this action against this constitution. Let these two, because they arrested them for at the time they had submitted themselves to Pronaco. The government was afraid that if these people who are not listening to government, who are armed, are listening to us, then if we came out with any outcome, they may want to enforce it. So they grabbed them. Asari, Wazirike, Gani Adams, and all of them. And so we had to find a way to intervene in their matter. And the first way we found was in including their names in the suit, challenging the very legitimacy of the constitution under which they were being tried. And it worked like magic. Those 2 treason trials collapsed on account of that suit. I was directly involved in the documentations of how they stepped into their freedom on 2 different days in 2007. To tell you the potency of that case, Nigeria had no answer to our challenge that the constitution under which they were trying people for treason was a fraud and could not sustain the charge. And we challenged them from that point that anybody they will bring to court on account of on a charge of treason over whatever the person was doing in his own space in resistance to Nigeria will be in court before they get there. They brought Henry Oka from Angola. When they saw that we were going to come, they didn't have any option than to leave him. Then they created the commotion that they went to do the charade in South Africa. I'm telling you all of this, and if you want to verify, if you want to test whether it's true, go back to YouTube, click the title ahead of 2015 elections. You will see the number of TV appearances in that period in which we were telling everybody that if we do not stop and repair this ship, we will pay in blood. If we do not stop the journey to elections and fix this matter, people are going to be swimming in blood. At that time, nobody thought that Buhari would become president. Our people refused to listen. Everybody was sure they will win and fix the situation. That's how we got here. So, in answer to your first question, whether this had always been our position, I've given you a rundown. If you go back to 2007, when we now went out to say we can't proceed, in real terms, that collapsed the treason trials that were going on the basis of that constitution, because we say we have no constitution. You can't be trying people on the basis of a fraud you imposed. So we had always maintained, and I had, as far back as that 1999, if I wanted to be anything in government, I've dealt with sitting presidents since that 99. But I've never accepted to do even consultancy. If I offered government any advice for which I could be paid billions of naira if I wanted, I never accepted to be advisor in terms of being paid or being but I can all the people who have governed since that time, who at one point or the other, had required some help from us in terms of managing. Yaradua was actually ready to go, deeper than other people in saying, "Come, let's do it. Let's do it this way together." He sent Tinubu to us, but we gave them conditions that will guarantee the solving of that problem. It was those conditions because we wanted them to announce to make these same demands that are in this constitutional force majeure, those 5 points of demand. And I plead with everybody in this clubhouse who can read and write to please go and read that constitutional force majeure. Send it to everybody who is in this danger with us to read and explain to the other people, especially those 5 points of demand. We can solve this problem in a matter of months. But if we refuse and we continue to argue, blood will flow on such a scale that's been unprecedented. We say, may God forbid. But what are we doing ourselves? Are we to allow it and ask God to forbid it by going to election? It will be suicide. I'm done.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's have number 5,
Thank
and
you.
let's keep our questions very brief. Number 5.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't have a question per se. It's just gonna be a comment. Thank you very much, sir, for coming to us today. I really appreciate your effort. Like the last NINAS meeting, I was there and I saw the great work that you are doing with other people. Yeah. From all you have said this evening, sir, I can clearly see that there is a need for Southern and Middle Belt Alliance. There is a dear need for that. However, on this clubhouse, we have been trying to build that alliance, and the alliance was going stronger until just very recently. maybe due to the election, some individuals that believe in the self-determination started advocating for, they suddenly became an election agitator, which to our surprise, we were like very seriously, you used to be for this, but why the sudden change? But if you ask them, they will tell you that oh, they can't be in alliance because this one is Igbo. It can't be in alliance with this one is Yoruba. Can't be alliance. This one is Ijo. You know that kind of thing. Then my own concern is that all these individuals, I I I used to tell them like, why can't we just bury our ego for us to have a common front? Let's just look at the end goal. Let's think of our people in Igogon, our people who are being killed in Anambra in the name of unknown gunmen, our people who are being killed in Jos. Let's bury our ego and let's just look at the end goal of saving lives. Even though some of us are in comfortable places in US, in Canada, in the UK, but all they will say is that no, because this one is Igbo, I cannot work. No, in my own opinion, I was thinking that irrespective of how much you hate an individual because of his tribe or because of his rhetoric, that individual can be called to a private room for us to have have a peace talk. But what I've seen in the past few weeks, while in my own little effort I've been trying to do that, is that the fire gets hotter in this line of divide. And it has for me, in short, just today, just before this meeting, one of them still called me a slave to the Igbos, all because I was trying to say, no, we don't need this. The Igbos are not our enemies. And I could even remember the comment of one of them in because we have Igbo room, the Niger Delta room, the Yoruba Nation room on this clubhouse. As one of them who used to be very strong advocate of this thing was in the Fulani room, and he was saying he just discovered that Fulani is a better ally than the Igbos,
Ally.
and this ally and the Igbos than the Igbos. And I was like, you live very close to the Igbos. You are Ijo. How come Fulani who live very far are your better allies? I see. Sometimes when I listen to many of them, sorry, somebody's mic is. When I listen to many of their arguments, I when I listen to their argument, I just feel like, can we actually have a united force in the south and the middle belt without people bringing in their ego and personal sentiment because you hate somebody or somebody from another tribe have said something wrong to you in the past, and you feel like no, because of that one person, then all the entire tribe is now evil and you cannot work with them. Why don't you look at the other people from that region who might need you, who might need your help, or who you might need their help, or who have also done something good to you in the past? But this is just a comment, sir. So I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned alliance. That is why I'm bringing this up, sir. You, in terms of the Ninas alliance, that how is there any point at which somebody from a particular region will have disagreement with what you guys are doing, and the next thing he wants to go back, he wants to start supporting Nigeria against what you are doing? Has there
Okay,
been
thank
any
you.
point in
Thank
time
you.
that happens, sir? Thank you, sir.
When the what happens is that elections will come. Some people will. We did Nadeko. We said we will not go to a meeting. Took place in the U.S. where it was agreed that nobody will go to This is 1998, 99. Nobody will go to any election unless we have a constitution that can govern the situation. Because we all knew that the constitution of 79 was going to lead us deeper into the mud. In fact, the Nadeko was from a meeting in which Abiola, who had won the election, committed to solving the problem before he would govern. That was what became the basis of forming the Nadeko to go and recover his mandate. He said he would not govern with the constitution because they were all they knew what went wrong and what needed to be done. And so from that far back, the people who that did the fight say let's not do. Then some broke ranks. Tinubu number one, and he became governor in Lagos. No problem. Your gamble has paid off for you. Can we resume the discussion? Can we resume the journey now? We went on and on and on. They were drifting further and further and further apart, pretending all the while that they will come back to it. No, we'll come back to it tomorrow. Oh, there was always a reason. Then another election will come. The few persons who had ever gone away from us were people who went to get benefit of election for now. Some some went to become senator, some went to become governor, some went to buy a form to contest election to be president and all that. But nobody except the pretenders. You can have people who came to pretend. If the day will come when we will be telling our people what Tunde Bakare did in our midst that became Save Nigeria. He came and pretended in our midst for 9 months. We launched out something we call Change Nigeria. Google it, you will see what it is. Then Bakare, that was looking towards political journey, just turned it all upside down and called it something else. I argued with him in private. He came to where it was coming to public and it was going to become rowdy. And I said, okay, we shut down that Change Nigeria because he had turned into, the agreement was, if we have to save this union, we must change it now. Otherwise it will collapse on our head. He said, no, we must save it first and then change it when we have saved it. So Change Nigeria became Save Nigeria. Has anybody seen Save Nigeria again since that time? Because we shut down everything. He went off with the crowd he saw with us to try to become a president and vice president. Going back to the same Buhari that had come, because Buhari came after we did Pronaco to come to tell us he wanted to be president and that he will, now that he was part of how we did all of what we did, he knows the problem now, that he will be the better person to enforce what we have agreed. In a meeting in which myself, himself, and Enohoro, door locked, I gave him a copy of the outcome of, that's the printed draft constitution that came from what we all did, and said to him that as sitting president, you are not going to be able to do this because you are just one president. There will be 36 governors who won their elections. There will be 109 senators and 360 House members who all won their elections. Which of them are you going to tell to dress back from his own state and collapse back to four region? Let us solve this problem before we begin to go to election. But if you insist that it is by going to win election that you do this, we have no vote to offer you, and that you will have us to contend with if you become president. Under this constitution, we are rejected. He tried the first time, tried the second. He had contested one round before that. He then tried 2-7, 2-11, and began to threaten everybody. Then we said to him, well, if out of brigandage and violence, because then Boko Haram had become his party, you become president, you will have no Nigeria to govern. There will be no Nigeria to govern because people are going to take back their portions. In the days ahead, when we begin to exchange documents, I'm going to give us evidence of these things I'm saying from newspapers and magazines, both home and both local and international, where these things were recorded when they happened. Both the 2007 meeting and the threat of a baboon that will swim in the blood, baboon and dog that will swim in their blood, that happened in 2000 before the ahead of the after the 2011 elections. And so these are the kind of things that had happened. People will come, pretend they agree with us. Buhari walked away at his own time to go and gamble. Bakare walked away at his own time to go and gamble. There are a whole number of others who didn't win. But the only reason they walked away, Utomi chaired one of the sessions, the economic session in the Pronaco conference. But he went away to try to go to contest election twice. There are a whole number of other people like that. So it had never been because they suddenly remember that Fulani was better than all of us or more. Let those from the Niger Delta ask what the alliance that Dapa Biriye entered with Sokoto Caliphate has brought to the Niger Delta. Because the British convinced everybody that Igbo was the problem. Come with us. Let's go to where did it all end? Abacha was Kensarowa's friend and ally and associate. They slept on the same camp beds during that war in terms of working together. If Kensarowa had any problem and it was soldiers that will resolve that problem at the highest level, the man he will be going to is his man, Sani Abacha, because Sani Abacha did all his work, all his military work in Port Harcourt. Where did it end? And so, all of those things, except anybody who is not willing to tell himself the truth, with the documents were excavated that predated Nigeria, which our fathers were not privy to, for which reason they signed us into this union of death. Enohoro told me so, that if they knew what the British had concealed from them, because the union was impossible from scratch. In the days ahead, the documents that I'm talking about, we have now digitized them, and those information that will be going out will include some of those, so that we can see the depth of the wickedness we're talking about. Anybody who is still thinking of preserving Nigeria is just planning to die violently, because that was how Nigeria was designed, to be a union of master and servant, a union of death, a union of backwardness. Every other thing you saw, you thought it was accident. No. They were written to be so in black and white ahead of 1914. We broke into the British archives to be able to get at those documents. And that was how we began to trace how we came to 1914 and 1922 and 1946, all this Littleton and McPherson that became 1960, that became the two leading combatants in the war. Enohoro was the spokesman of the federal government during that war. He was their chief negotiator traveling, because Enohoro was schoolmate with Harold Wilson, the British Prime Minister of the time. They knew themselves from childhood. In a meeting that took place in Benin, in the office of Solomon Asemota, still alive, senior advocate, many of you may know him. This man who was the chief negotiator of the federal side, sitting on the same table with Ojukwu, that was the Biafran head of state. Both of them, listening to my presentation, came to the conclusion that they now saw why they went to war. That they didn't know how the thing that happened led to war until that presentation. Because they saw what the British did to the two sides to take them in that direction. the British still taking the profit from that wickedness at the cost of the blood of 3.5 million people, selling 3 million barrels of crude oil to this date, which they own over and above Nigeria. The NNPC you thought was the senior partner is by far a junior partner in the joint venture that sells that 3 million barrels of crude oil. Nigeria is a criminal enterprise, was designed to be a criminal enterprise, still a criminal enterprise to this hour. The joint venture between Britain and the Sokoto Caliphate, every other person is subsidiary, local agent, local enforcer, no matter what you call them. And I've been privileged to see the documents of that joint venture, even the ones they didn't plan for anybody to see. We had to do it the way WikiLeaks does it, to get at the documents by which we are defeated. They stand no chance in this fight. The only thing still holding them in place is that our people are arguing blindly, like a people under a spell. And I know they're under a spell because the caliphate we're dealing with. Does anybody remember what Pafarawa said he did with 4.6 billion from Dasuki's, the money they said that Dasuki said? It was for Marabal. So the people we are dealing with are casting heavy spell, reinforcing it with human blood. If we do not know, God forbid we become casualties of it. There is no Nigeria that can be preserved. Anybody still planning that? Our concern now is not for Nigeria. Our concern should be for the Nigerians that are trapped here. Nigeria had a chance to save itself as a union and to save Nigerians. 55 years passed. Arrogance prevailed. Wickedness ruled. It's come now to where we can only save one. Either we save Nigeria or we save Nigerians. If we have to save Nigeria, then more Nigerians will need to perish than the ones already dead and disabled economically. But if we have to save Nigerians, we must now sacrifice that Nigeria defined by that 1999 constitution. There's no other way.
Thank you, Mr. Tony. We know we only have you for like 10 more minutes, so we want to get in more questions as much as possible.
All right.
So,
So
I just want to say something for just 30 seconds, please. Just to point out what he mentioned. I mean, like, apparently, so
we'll come back. We'll come back to you. We have other people.
President,
So who's number 7? Who is number 7? Number 7.
Number 6 is what you called. I was number 5.
No, number 6 told me to skip him, so I'm going to number 7.
I'm number 8, please.
All right. If we don't have number 7, let's have number 8. Number 8, go ahead.
Okay, Dr. Tony, I want to appreciate your coming. We've been doing a lot of work on this clubhouse even before your arrival, and I must tell you we have suffered. Dr. Tony, you should realize that...
No titles, please. I prefer Mr.
Okay, Mr. Tony, we have really suffered on this app.
Thank you.
Trying to propagate this same message. A whole number of times we have played most and several of your videos, trying to, preach the same, take the same message to every nooks and cranny on this app. I must tell you, we have suffered. There is no level of attack. There is no level of defamation. There is no level of blackmail that we haven't experienced in trying to preach this same message. And, perhaps somehow these same people that have managed to demean us are still here. Some of them, I even appreciate some of them that have the balls to come here with their real account Majority of them are here with their fake accounts, trying to discredit your work and trying to push a wrong narrative to continue deceiving our people, to try to continue misinforming the already misinformed generation. They have invited most of these people that you have mentioned that have lived on lies and deceits, and to their own selfish interests, they have continued to dwell on all these lies. I thank you for coming to add to our voice, because at a point in time, our bones began to, weaken, our strength began to fail us. They have, uh, uh, slapped us, beaten us, tried to crush us. Even as I'm talking to you now, my legs are paining me from all the injuries that these guys have tried to met on us. But we love the fact that finally you are here, so that people can hear from the horse's mouth that perhaps we've been right all along. And as I'm talking to you now, Mr. Tony, we are beginning to sell our forms to recruit more police. And because from tomorrow, we will start closing their already open shops on this app. We will now refill our strength and our gas to go after these liars, these deceitful people. I always tell people that these guys are the most dangerous. When you look at those Fulanis going to kill and slaughter people, well, you call them foot soldiers. But how about the people on all different social media pushing this narrative, trying to water and trying to deceive people? I also see them aiding and abetting these guys. I also see them more or less like a terrorist. So I want to assure you, Mr. Tony, that though we also have some places we do not agree with you, but we will also continue to progress and discuss and see where we can reach a compromise, because anything that will lead to the balkanization of that entity, that fraudulent contraption, we are down for it. Now, this is a general public announcement to all those people that have decided they go into some sort of rooms, they have tried everything. You guys need to get ready to leave this app. Close your shops, nobody will patronize you henceforth. Our youth have already been misled. Our youths have already gone astray. On the Rubicon, the name the Rubicon, like it sounds, is a point of no return. And we always say in our page that we have left Egypt. We are just about to cross the Red Sea. And this message you have brought to us is also energizing us to continue with that journey. And I assure you, Mr. Tony, that after tomorrow, that you will be with us also to share this good news, we will now carry the baton. We will now go after these people. We will chase them out of all platforms, and we will continue to push for what will work for us.
Thank you,
The
sir.
kingdom of darkness will never prevail over light. Thank you so much for all you have done. You are a great man, regardless of some criticisms, which tomorrow we will take more time to discuss on that. You have done what you are supposed to do for your generation. Like we always say to them, Mandela, the likes of Mandela, were born by a woman. All these freedom fighters you grow up to hear, it is people that gave birth to them. They are not spirits. And look at what you have done. Look at what you have continued doing. And I also urge the people that have brought you to this platform to be careful on the stages they take you to, because it would be anomaly to take you to those same stages that have done everything to discredit your work. It will be an insult on some people that have fought so hard to defend you and your cause. So please, they should look into this, and we say, God bless you, Mr.
Thank you,
Tony,
boss. Thank
for
you.
doing what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Because of our time, I know Isba police, chai. If
The man they
if we give
talk,
you the
he they talk.
and as we don't come out Egypt now, make we dey shout hallelujah. Thank you very much. Yeah. So please don't let us forget this is masses. If you are yet to join the house, just click on the house icon. It's the green icon on top of uh, the title there, Massive Seaborg and Savers. Click on that green icon, join the house so that you will be notified anytime we're having this type of liberationing, progressive discussions. So thank you very much for the time you have put into this. Because of our time, because we want uh, Mr. Tony to be able to take his rest by 11. So Nigerian time, Lagos time 11. So and we have very little more time. Please, the rest of us, let's keep our questions very short, please. It's just a plea so that Mr. Tony can go and take his rest. So number 9, please
All right.
take your question.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Tony, for your statements. I do agree that the constitution is flawed and it needs changing. However, the no voting strategies were an issue, a big issue, I must say. Um, this is why you mentioned earlier on that if 10 people vote, the vote will count. So, except you are saying that we will violently halt the election from holding, I don't think there's any mechanism that you do have or your organization has to stop the election from holding. Now, if you do, kindly share it with us. Let's enjoy from your wealth of knowledge. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Tony, are you there?
Mr. Tony, unmute your mic.
Think he's in a call.
Am I on now? Right.
Yes, you're on.
Yes,
I
we
don't,
can hear you.
right. Let's not introduce what we have not said. Talking about violently stopping election is that you have allowed the election, the preparations and processes to lead to where there's an election coming. At this time, what I said is, let us say it loud and clear to the hearing of the whole world that we are not going to this election under this constitution. Let us say, let us go, let us we are in the last quarter of 2021. If those who believe, if they are not dishonest, if those who believe that our sovereignty should come back to us can declare so that they will not go to election to revalidate the constitution that made them slave in their land. Imagine if in 1985 there were black people who are still prevaricating whether to go to another election under the apartheid constitution. Whatever Chris Hani will do with them is what should happen to anybody found in these alliance territories preparing to go to the election that will renew the life of that constitution, no matter what other excuse they want to offer. And we're not talking about boycott of 2023. We're saying now, anybody who is not prepared to say so is a dishonest person. Anybody who is not prepared to act on this is a collaborator with the agents of death in our midst. If we do it now, then we avoid the calamity that is in front. But if we keep being smart, saying it in one form and doing it in the other form, the Fulani will come to your doorstep with AK-47. And you'll be lucky to have your head on your shoulder to tell the rest of the story. Political party, close shop. If that campaign is started now, by the time Christmas comes, the whole world will have come to the realization that these people mean business. They've repudiated this constitution. Do you know what it took? Do you know how we got to the solemn assemblies? The Yoruba people present here, did you not see the Adamasingba Stadium in Ibadan filled up with all the governors present? Go to YouTube now and click Solemn Assembly of the Lower Niger and see what comes out. And tell us who are the leaders of the agitation in Niger Delta that were not present in that place. To say that we reject this constitution as basis of union. So if the Eastern Bloc had done that to the scene of the international, 1 week after that event, we had invitation to come to Washington. That was the first time I had to address the Congress there. 2015. We had this event on the 27th of April. By the 18th of May, I was standing in Capitol Hill at the invitation of those who had what we said there. The Middleburg did their own. The plane carrying Edwin Clark and Nyangodo was not allowed to land in Makodi. The day they had to go and land in Abuja. That was the day. So if we have done all of that, and we're asking our people to do just one last thing, say you don't want to go to election. And they are prevaricating. I pray it doesn't cost them their own blood, not other people's blood. Let us say it and see how they will come to election. It's because we are still dancing left and right that they are still talking about election.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tony. So next will be number 10. I think we just had that should be Master. Master, you there? Master, you there? All right, Master is busy. So we would have the next person, number 11. That's Queen Rider. Queen Rider, you there?
Yes, good evening. I'm there.
All right,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Tony, for what you've said. It really makes a lot of sense. But there's one aspect I was expecting to hear about, especially when you're talking about the involvement of external stakeholders. With what is going on in the region, that's ECOWAS region, we've seen where presidents in power try to play around with the constitution. We've seen Benin, we've seen Togo and all, and what happened with Guinea Conakry, and Mali. In fact, Guinea Conakry's own, the army got angry because he tampered with the constitution. I understand what you're saying about not going to elections. So what needs to be done now before it even reaches that point. But what I'm wondering is whether there is a way stakeholders in the sub-region, that's where ECOWAS, can be brought in, because what is happening in the sub-region and why Guinea Conakry and Mali are very angry with ECOWAS is because when their presidents and their cohorts and the government, the cabinet, were tampering with the constitution, ECOWAS kept quiet and pretended not to hear, especially like with what happened in Guinea Conakry. So I'm wondering, is there any way ECOWAS can be brought into this to let them know that this constitution is a fraud? Because already work is being done in the background. I don't know if people have heard, but they want to try their luck, like with Obasanjo, to see if there's that option, maybe it's plan C, to see if there can be a third term. So I'm just saying, can we also look at that aspect where ECOWAS plays a role or some stakeholders in the sub-region are brought in? Thank you.
Unfortunately, there's no ECOWAS outside Nigeria. Nigeria is the one dictating to everybody in one corner or the other. You saw Buhari, how many times he went to that Mali. Nobody can be president in Chad, whether military or civilian, without somebody in Abuja, especially if it's somebody from that northern part. Chad, Niger, and Mali. These three countries immediately border Nigeria in terms of, contiguity. Each of these countries bigger than Nigeria in size in terms of land mass. And the balance of West Africa is now what you saw in the sweeping all the way to where you find Senegambia in the northern flanks. This same Fulani roaming in the north of all those countries, moving freely. But now Nigeria has become their, place to converge since they captured the power here and they are locating themselves here. There's no ECOWAS that is able to talk to Nigeria because their headquarters, you can see, if you go to Abuja, you will then see what I mean. That ECOWAS is a department of Nigeria's, malfeasance and malfeasances. So there's no, our matter is a lot more straightforward. If we incapacitate that constitution, all those things, they rushed when we rolled out this constitutional force majeure on the 16th of December. The very next day in 2020, the very next day, the Senate uh, threw out something of going to do amendment, and all the grounds of constitutional grievances we raised in that force majeure were the things they said they wanted to go and start amendment on. So we ignored them for a while so that they could come out into the arena for everybody to see their needs. Then we launched our own attack to say the mandate of National Assembly does not extend to constitution making. We have not ceded our sovereignty because we voted in election. You were elected to make law according to constitution. We have not made a constitution. That's the contention. So you are committing treason against the whole thing collapsed when they were already rushing to their regional hearings or zonal hearings. And so there's nothing. The people talking about third term, have they gotten to the end of the second term? They are praying to get to the end of the one they have, because the constitution upon which the type of ladder NEPA used to climb, the constitution is the scaffolding upon which they are standing. And what we have done has compromised the base of that scaffold. They're entirely at our mercy right now if we know what to do, because pulling back our signature immediately crashes that entire profile of that podium. It's within our reach to do if our people will stop arguing without reason. If we pull that scaffold now, they will be completely at our mercy. And they're not going to be able to fire any shot. I'm sure some of us saw the video from Polade Parasin's church. The day he was talking about how the constitution is a fraud, and how Nigeria under that constitution is a scam, and how we should not get to the next election under that constitution. If you listen in between, you will see where we're both talking about what international stakeholders have done. The US, in a space of 48 hours, the US, the EU, and even the UK taking a common position on Nigeria that tally with our prescription. They have to put on that. So as it is, that's where we are. We have a situation that is unique because of these 22 years of work that have been done, across the entire place, because of the divine mistake they made in putting our signature on a document we didn't make, and also going ahead to publish it in error. They can't recover from that error except we allow them to escape with it. But it wouldn't stop with them escaping. It would be that we're sacrificing our lives. Look, kill us, take the land. That's what we're saying. If we proceed to this election, they only need to drag us on the pathway to that election to have their way. We only need to stop them from dragging us on that pathway to recover our life. It is that pointed. We are closer to all the other things they would do. Anything they can do by way of playing pranks. You heard when Malami talked about suspension of constitution when the memo leaked. Because they have no answer, they want to assume martial powers. It's because our people are still unable to speak, just say, join in saying that they are still wobbling with all those plans. You heard this again when they began to talk about unknown gunmen and the provision of Section 135. I'm sure there are lawyers in this house. I'm sure if I ask in the subsequent sessions, I will ask us a few questions and we'll listen to a few answers. And then we'll open the book and you will see the correct answers. I'm sure if I ask now, say, what is the tenure of the office of the president? Most people present in this house will say, 4 years. And those people will include lawyers. But if we open the books and we see what is written down there, we'll realize we're in a very horrible condition. If I were to ask what the educational qualification for holding public office is, I'm sure many of us will say school certificate. But when we go into it, you discover there is no requirement for any form of education at all to be president. But lawyers will just be running their mouth for something that is in black and white. Everything is a deceit. Everything is false. Let us know that the people that imposed that had their destination in mind. They're almost there. But God made a provision of escape for us. If we act on it, they stand no chance. If we fail, we stand no chance against them in where they've gotten us to. Next question, please.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Tony. I have two questions on the back channel. I'm going to
Right.
read those questions, then Lisa B will also ask this question, so you can take all of them together. So
Right.
let me read. The question says, how will you stop the parties? Will you say people should not assemble to listen to them, or that TV stations should not hear debates, or that primaries in parties will not hold? Then the second question is, can we have a clearer picture of how these actions will unfold? So that's the question. So, Lisa B, you can also ask your question as well, so you can take both of them together.
Mine is not like a question though, but literally what I actually want to say is that, according to the way he's bad actually spoken on this app, and a lot of we agitators have spoken, right? There's an issue we've been going through. I think the issue has been happening for over a month and close to 2 months among the agitators, because now people are finding reason why they don't want to work with the Igbos, why they don't want to work with the Niger Delta, why they don't want to work with the Middle Belt. So I think we want you to educate us more why we need this alliance, because I think people are not getting it. Because when you finish speaking with some said, they'll say, I don't want to listen to these backing dogs. I speak with their leaders. So I don't know, Mr. Tony, maybe you can actually educate us, because I've actually speak with Auntie Adedoyin and Ola Bliss to help us invite you to Middle Belt and Southern Assembly. So about why we need to work together. So I want to give us a little intake before you come to our assembly, which we call nationalist are. So I want to give us a little reason why we have to come together to work as one. Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, I start with the last. I start with the last question. We're in a cage. We're in a cage called Nigeria, chained down in our various cells. That cage is that constitution because it is that constitution that take the gun from you and put in the hands of the people pointing it at you. It is that constitution that took your oil and gas assets and gave it to people from Jigawa and Kano. It is that constitution that took the ports of Lagos and handed over to Dangote. It is that constitution that is reason you can't have electricity. It is that constitution is reason you can't have security. It is that constitution that you have quota system that deny you opportunities you are more than qualified for. Everything you complain about. And so, to the extent that it is flowing from that constitution and nobody is spared. No, the Fulani has not left anybody in their killing schemes, in their expropriation schemes of taking over people's land and putting Fulani people to own it. They didn't leave any part of the country. They didn't leave any economic assets for anybody. They seized everything. They didn't leave any guns in the hands of anybody, not one rifle. They seized everything. So they will come now, they've taken over the assets, they are coming to kill off everybody, and they already have the Fulani they invited from all over Africa to come and take your place. To that extent, we are all locked down into that danger. Our the potent weapon in our hand to be able to put up any fight at all is that constitution that can be taken down by our collective action. Ogoni cannot do it alone. Ijo cannot do it alone. Igbo cannot do it alone. Yoruba cannot do it alone. And anybody who tries to do it alone will suffer what other people who try. When Isaac Boro declared Niger Delta Republic, it took only 12 days to overrun him. When Eastern region became Biafra, that they managed to divide into two, it took only how many months to insert